Chris Letchford, one of the guitarists from Scale the Summit, has released his first solo album, a jazz album, entitled Lightbox. I'm very excited to review this, so let's do it. Anyways, I'm Chainsaw. This is my review of Lightbox by Chris Letchford. So, to start off, this is 10 tracks from Chris Letchford. There are a couple of guest musicians, and they will, of course, be put down into the description, so you can check that out. But, anyways, I was very excited about this album because, of course, it's more material from one of the band members from one of my personal favorite bands, Scale the Summit, and so I was very excited. I didn't hear any of the singles. I was really tempted to, but I wanted to hold off and hear the entire album, so, check that link in the description. That will take you to the actual Bandcamp site of Chris Letchford, where you can hear the entire Lightbox album. I highly recommend it, and haven't really got to the review yet, but check that link. Trust me, you want to listen to this album. At least, it's interesting nonetheless if you're a fan of jazz or not. Now on to the idea of jazz music. He considers this a jazz album, so I will agree to some extent that Lightbox is a jazz album, but on the other side, the flip of the coin, if you will, there are some musical moments and some musical things going on within this record where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking and I'm saying to myself, that sounds like something that Scale the Summit would do. That sounds like something Scale the Summit would write and put into their music within albums. Is that a bad thing per se? Not really. It makes me think more of what Scale the Summit is, because some of the musical similarities between Lightbox and Scale the Summit is pretty close in some sections, and so that makes me really question how progressive is Scale the Summit. Are they going into the more jazz territory? I don't know. But hearing Lightbox, it started making me more think about Scale the Summit and the music they play. But anyways, back to Lightbox, as it shows the similarities. Of course, it's going to be there because one of the guitarists is, of course, creating this album. One big thing that I really did notice that's a huge change up in the whole idea from Scale the Summit to now this Lightbox album is piano. There is a lot of piano. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot of piano throughout Lightbox, because there are some moments where the piano is so heavily used that the actual piano is actually leading certain tracks and actually leading sections into other sections. And that shows that Chris Letchford, even though that there's a lot of guitar parts, a lot of melody, a lot of just craziness going on, that he will allow the other band members and the other people that are playing to kind of lead sections, that it's not all about the guitar. So I like the fact that that happened. So there are some sections where the drums are leading, and the drums are leading the song in or bringing the song in with a beat, or it's the bass that's doing a little bit of something, or mainly it's the high points, which I consider are the piano and the guitars from Chris throughout this record, because those are the high points, and those are the things where it's either the piano leading or the guitar, or maybe in some cases it's the drums or bass. It just depends on what's happening within the songs. There's so many things going on within certain songs that it takes a couple listens to finally understand everything that's happening, because there's just layers upon layers upon layers on this album, and I think that that's a good thing, because some songs don't need it. Some songs have a very simplistic groove in some sections, where the simplistic groove is kind of the driving force, and I like that. And then there's other songs, and there's other sections within other songs that there's so many things going on at once that you really have to pay attention, or else you're going to miss something really cool and really catchy. You're going to miss it. And I like the fact that I got to sit down and just enjoy this album for what it is, and not hear anything prior to the full album release, because I got everything at once. And to know that there were certain songs I loved right off the bat, and there was other songs that I felt like they were interesting, but I wasn't really catching exactly the idea of the song or something like that, so I had to go back and listen to it, and I started understanding. So this album has layers. This album has a lot of melody. This album has, like I said, heavily piano influence that I really think that drives this album to be in the more sections of the jazz. The only two big things that are difference between the Lightbox solo album from Chris Letchford and Scale the Summit is, number one, the piano. That's the big thing. But number two, there is no heavy distorted guitars throughout this whole entire record. It's all clean guitar. That's all it is. So all the clean sections you like from Scale the Summit, if you're a fan of Scale the Summit and looking to listen to this record, expect everything clean. There's no heavy distortion anywhere. It's all clean. So if you love those clean sections in Scale the Summit, Lightbox is going to be your ticket to enjoying it. That's the one thing you'll definitely take from and go, I love that. So I love this album for what it is. This album is not necessarily the Migration 2.0 or the next Scale the Summit album. This album, I would say 80 to 85% jazz, type material. There are, like I said, some material that remind me of Scale the Summit, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I like that. I like the fact that there are some influence from his actual band that's influencing this album, because it shows that he can carry over some of the ideas and some of the qualities of Scale the Summit over to the jazz, and it shows that Scale the Summit, once you start thinking about it, is more than just a progressive instrumental metal band. So I like the fact that Lightbox made me think more about the actual album itself, and then thinking about his actual band itself as well. So I gotta give it that. My personal favorite tracks from Lightbox, as I try to get it open here, then this iPhone is freaking dead. The Starboys opens this album, and it's a strong opener. Interesting names throughout this album as well as titles, but the Starboys, definitely a very good opener, so I have to give it that. It's a 4 minutes and 49 seconds, and there's a lot going on, so, you know, you gotta keep listening to it to catch everything. Earthen, track number 2, Sign of 4. I love Sign of 4. I love everything about that song. It's so catchy. There's just some of the things that Chris is doing on the guitar that I'm listening to. I'm really going, how is he doing that? How did he come up with that idea? It's very interesting to kind of think about how in the world all of them came together and came up with the idea of really performing this and making it sound pretty damn good. I'm really just, you know, not in shock. It's just more of just like, I'm questioning how'd they do this. I'm really curious to know. Track number 4, Zodiac. Track number 7, Piedra Falls. Probably saying that wrong. It's in the description. Track number 7, Piedra Falls. I'm probably butchering that to death. Track number 8, Pearl. Track number 9, Ghost, Orchid. And track number 10, The Gentleman. The Gentleman, track number 10, 6 minutes and 14 seconds, longest song on this record. And it is a great ending. It has a lot of very interesting elements within that song. There's a lot of interesting things that they're doing with that song. And when you listen to it for the first time, its entirety, the last track, The Gentleman, it's obvious it's the final track. It's obvious that it was written to be the final song, because it has some of that ending epic quality that we all expect from a final track from an album. So hearing this song, there was definitely a lot of, like, this song is definitely going to be the ender, the end all big bang, you know, to go out with. So got to give it that. Like, this album just, it really did surprise me. I was expecting to enjoy it, but I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. There's a huge lineup. We have Chris on guitar. Bass is split between Evan on four tracks and Mark on 6 tracks. All this is in the description. It will tell you, but it doesn't say specifically what songs they played, so there's that. Drums by Steven. Piano is separated between Danny on 6 songs and Steven on 4 songs, so there's that. But anyways, I'm gonna go through the actual guys themselves. I'm gonna have to, you know, say them both at the same time whenever there's 2 people that are split off. So unfortunately, like I said, it doesn't say what specific tracks each person played on when they're split between the basses and piano being you know, split. Chris on guitars. The guy is just a genius. He has so many epic things that he does within this album, and I like the fact that he did this album, because it really does make me think more about his band and all that stuff. So this is a really good album, and I'm excited to see what he does next. If he decides to do another solo album, I definitely want him to do something. I mean, this album really did open my eyes to more of who he is and his guitar style, because he really brought his guitar style over here, and really, I think, did some new things and built on his guitar style. So I'm excited to see what happens after this, but he did a great job for this nonetheless. Now, the bass is split between Evan and Mark. The bass just sounds really good on this album. I like the fact that the bass is not just in the back, just playing along. There are some sections where the bass does stand out and does some things that kind of, you know, enhances the songs when it needs to be. So I gotta give credit to those 2 guys. All 10 songs, the bass sounds pretty good. The drums, Steven. The drumming is more involved within this album. Now, Scale the Summit, there's a lot of involvement with the drumming, but I feel like that the drumming has to be more involved within this type of album, because if the drums are being simplistic beat and we're just going to keep going along and blah, 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 it's going to get really boring with the drums. Then you're just going to be more focused on everything else. And so I like the fact that the drums are involved like everybody else, and more involved, and they're doing more things and stuff like that. So I like the fact that Steven did that for the drums. Pianos, of course, like I said, split up between Danny and Steven. And interesting enough, I just noticed piano and drums were both played by Steven. So, you know, he's multi-talented for sure. But piano, Danny and Steven split off. Like I said before, a lot of heavily piano influence throughout this record. So expect a lot of piano, and expect it to be in a lot of sections, and expect it to be sometimes in the forefront and there, and pushing the song along when it needs to be, so expect that. But the piano sounds pretty good, and I like the fact that all the other band members surrounding the piano were helping the piano along and not basically pushing it back. I like the fact that they brought it up to the front and was basically, you know, bouncing off each other, whether it's piano, guitar, piano, drum, piano, bass, whatever the case may be. There are some moments where the guys just, you know, the chemistry is all working together. They all sound great. The production, I think, reminds me of The Migration, so it's pretty damn good production. And overall, it's a pretty good damn album. Pretty good damn album. So, in conclusion, Lightbox is a great jazz record. Like I said, it's majority jazz. It just depends on how you interpret the album. But for me, it is a really good album and has a lot of great, memorable tracks. And I'm going to go back to this album from time to time and enjoy it. So my rating for this album is going to be an 8 out of 10. It definitely deserves that, a strong 8. So anyways, make sure you check that link for the Bandcamp site to listen to Lightbox. If you enjoyed, of course, you can buy it there directly from his Bandcamp site. So anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. I'm Chainsaw. That's the end of my review. If you liked the video, like the video. If you want to see me and my stuff, click my name or subscribe to see more. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.